everyone. I am Emily from Transformative Leadership, and I am so incredibly grateful to be here with all of you. Thank you all for joining me live as we talk all about making decisions in a different way, in a different style, for you to be able to show up as a leader and make decisions differently so you can be more effectively. And I'm going to start back with just a backstory. I have made a lot of decisions in my life, including in my personal and professional life. Anything ranging from jumping out of a two-story house when I was 17 to making the decision to switch careers to move across the country from Indiana to Florida. So I have made a lot of decisions. And through that process, I have learned there's been some decisions that I've made great, and there's been some decisions that I have had the opportunity to learn from. And I think that's the cool thing about decisions is I kind of view them now as it's not anything that it's always either learning and growing. It's not a regret of the past. So as we think about decision making, and I love to play in the realm of logic and also intuition. That's how I operate as a leader, to have both sides and to be able to integrate both of them so that way I can make effective decisions. And I'm going to share a process with you today around this, and also a process that has helped me. It's helped a lot of our clients that we teach, and it's a unique process. And I love always when I take people through this process, they always come back out of it with like a different experience. And so I'm going to start with like kind of some background. And I've got some notes here, clearly. But just the start of it is understanding how you make decisions. A lot of times we don't understand as leaders how we make decisions until we make the decision, and then we either regret it or we come out of it and we're like, that was a really good decision that I made, right? So it's the awareness, understanding how do I make decisions as a leader currently? And if that decision making process is serving me, cool. You don't need to listen any further on this live. If you are looking for a different way to make decisions so that they are effective, stay tuned, because that's what we're going to walk through. And so the very first thing is like understanding, having the awareness of how you make decisions. Are those decisions effective? Are they not effective? And what do you really want to switch about them? Because sometimes in decision-making process, logically it doesn't make sense, but in our gut and our intuition, it's telling us another thing. So sometimes we get to decide, are we going to listen to our body, or are we going to listen to our logical mind? And what I like to do is I like to play in both worlds. I love to look at the data and the facts and have the reality, because I don't also want to play in this delusional world and be like, oh, that was the sign, because sometimes you need to like find the sign, but sometimes you need to have some logical stuff as well. So it's the awareness around that. And then the other part of it is a lot of this goes back to you learning yourself as a leader. How do you make decisions? How are you basing your decisions off of? If you've never heard of doing body-based decision making, or tuning into your body or your intuition or your gut, whatever it is, your heart, call it whatever you want, this is going to be more of a newer concept if you've never heard of that. But for me, it comes down to understanding in my body and where I'm operating out of. When I am in a high or I'm in a low emotional state, I am going to make a different decision than I am if I was in a neutral, peaceful state. And that's the thing that goes back to the awareness. When you are making these decisions, where are you basing out of? Where is your neutral space as a leader? Do you know what your neutral space is and how that feels? If not, that's one of the things that you get to learn. That's one of the things that we teach our clients, is learning how to really tap into their body and to know themselves enough to know that this is going into a heightened space and I need to bring myself back down. And how do I do that? That's the tools that we teach them. And so when it comes back to staying in a neutral space to make a decision, this is going to impact the way you make your decision. For example, I've made decisions when I've been in a very heightened space, and then I've made decisions where I've been in a very lower space, and it's like, whew, none of those decisions were in alignment with, because that's not the decision making process that's in alignment with me. So now what I do when it comes to bigger decisions, I know that I need at least 24 to 48 hours to make a decision that feels in alignment with me. And that means not being rushed in the decision making process. Now, I know you're probably thinking, but I need to make a decision on the run. I'm a leader, I have a business, or I run a team, or whatever it is. Okay, cool. I got you too. So, in that case, if there's a decision you have to make right away, it's literally taking a deep breath in and seeing if you can ground yourself in that space and in that time to be in a calm space versus a chaotic space of where you're making that decision. And there's this process. I even taught my boys this. Yes, I am that parent that teaches them these tools. But I taught my boys this process of when you are looking for a decision, and it's really like you just take a deep breath in and you feel it in your body, right? You just feel it in your body. A lot of people, a lot of us walk around on earth here not even never feeling into our body ever. And then we're like, ooh, like my body's tight or it needs to be adjusted or, whatever. Some of us have the awareness, others do not. We're just caught up in this hustle and grind or life or whatever you want to call it. And there's no shame in that. We've all, we're all there. But it's tapping into your body, and your body will either open or close. So when I ask them questions, like for example, for my boys, I'm like, do you want to go do the dishes? They're like, ooh, no, their body closes, right? Closes. But if I say, do you want to go to the beach or you want to go out to eat? Their body opens. It's a yes, right? So it opens and closes. And so it's practicing that within ourselves. And I've practiced a lot with myself, even down to when I go grocery shopping, I'm like, do I want to buy this? Do I not? Do I open? Do I close? And then also taking that, your intuition, and strengthening your intuition and practicing that along with your logical side, along with the data. What is the data telling you? A lot of times as leaders, we make decisions based just out of one space. We'll look at the data and be like, no, the data says X, Y, Z. But we don't also ask the deeper questions. We don't ask what is in alignment with the company, what is in alignment with me as a business owner, what is in alignment with me as a person, right? And sometimes, depending on your position, you get to have the say-so and you don't get to have the say-so, right? So that's why I'm saying the decision-making process really comes down to you knowing yourself as a leader, like who you are, how you operate, and how you make decisions. And then there's tons of other logical tools that we also teach, whether it's 5Y, problem solving. I taught root cause analysis for a long time in the corporate space, so very much aware of like all those problem solving tools out there. And they're great tools to integrate, but bringing back the human component to making decisions is also a huge thing. And there's also the decision-making process of, are you operating out of a people-pleasing process? If you are a people pleaser, you're going to be making decisions based off that. And again, how do we fix this? We go back to be like, what is my decision-making process? Am I making it from people-pleasing? Am I making it from a space of not having boundaries? Am I making it from a space of, I have to do this or I get fired, or I have to do this because society tells me I have to do this? And it's the awareness that we have as leaders and how we make decisions. And that's really your step one, is the awareness. So I encourage you, whether you're watching this live or you're catching the replay, take some time to really look at the way you make decisions and ask yourself, how do I make decisions? And if you don't know, like, look at the last couple of decisions you made and break that process down. That's something I love to do with myself and with my clients, is also breaking the process down. So when we are working with clients and they're like, well, I did X, Y, Z, we're like, okay, stop, take some steps back, and let's break this process down to see if that's a pattern you always have. Because there's some patterns of, always being a fight or flight, and that's how we make our decisions, right? We don't know no better. I used to be one of those, fight or flight, that's how I'm making decisions. But once I had the awareness and I could feel in my body, and I could also use the logical data to be like, okay, this is what feels good. And, because you got to have a balance. It's all about the balance of the decision-making process. And then it's also to help your team with this when they're trying to make decisions, teaching them these tools as well. So you as the leader learning them first is going to trickle down to your team, if you have a business, to your team, like it affects everybody. And so starting with the awareness, and then the next piece is really asking yourself, how do you want to make decisions? There's sometimes a lot of fear around decisions. This decision has to be made, or if I make this decision, then I have X. If I do this, then I do X. So there can be some fear, there can be some anxiety around it. And it's asking yourself, does operating from that space feel good? And if not, changing it, like shift the way you operate, change the way you operate, change the way you make decisions. And part of that is coming back to self. As leaders, we get to come back to ourselves, back to our body, back to listen, and back to start making decisions from our core self. And if you don't know how to do that, like, send us a message. We help people with that all day long. But it's one of those things where we don't realize how much it impacts us by being in our body. It impacts our decisions. It impacts the way we show up. It impacts the way we communicate. Everything stems from how deeply do you know yourself. And that is the decisions, even as simple as making the decision to eat better, or making the decision to go work out, or making the decision to meditate on a daily basis, or just find peace, or making the decision to have work-life balance, making the decision not to hustle. All those decisions are based off of something, and there's patterns behind that. And so if we have the awareness around what are those patterns, and is that decision really serving me? And do I want to make better decisions? And if yes, I do want to make better decisions, the first step is always awareness. And that is, how am I making decisions? Where am I operating out of? Am I operating fight or flight or avoidance? Or am I operating from a space of not enoughness, where I'm showing up and saying yes when the decision should have been no? Like, how many times have we done that as leaders, where we have said yes to things, knowing in ourselves it was a no, but we did it because we had to people please. We did it because, we felt bad for not saying no, which ties back to self-worth and worthiness and value. And that's a whole other different life. But all this comes back to the way we make decisions. And if we're not aware of our patterns, and we're not aware of the beliefs, and we're not aware of the programming that society and the way we were raised has conditioned us, we will stay in that pattern, and we will stay and continue to make decisions that don't serve us. And there comes a point in time when you're ready to make a change. And I know this speaking from experience, there comes a point in time of, you have to make a decision to make some changes. And that's scary, and that's uncomfortable. But it's also beautiful, because there's transformation on the other side. And there's been many points in my life where, as a leader, I came and I was like, I got to make some different decisions. Even just recently going into bodybuilding, I realized I had to make some different decisions. And those decisions looked like prioritizing sleep, prioritizing health, my meals, my nutrition. But it was in the decision-making process. And then I saw, I didn't always want to choose healthy food, because who doesn't like pizza and some chocolate? Come on, let's be real. But I saw through that process my patterns of my habits of why I was choosing unhealthy things. It was an avoidance for me, right? So, when we're feeling like crap, we avoid things. I would go to food. That's a pattern. That's a cycle. And as leaders, when we understand this, the awareness around it, then we can start stripping it down and changing it from that aspect. And we see this a lot with our clients. Once they have that awareness, and they're like, oh, that's what the pattern is, and that's where it stemmed from, that's where the transformation happens. They have these moments of, oh, I had no idea I had that money story. I had no idea I had that value and that worthiness issue, and that was impacting my decision making. That's why I'm not making effective decisions. I really should be making decisions that are in alignment with me, but I'm not, because I'm operating from a space of not worthiness. I'm operating from a space of I don't have boundaries. I'm operating from a space of constantly saying yes and being a people pleaser. And it's through the work that we get to lead them and guide them through that they get that transformation. And if that's something that you're looking for, send me a message, put it in the comments. We are always happy to have these conversations. And what does it look like to work with us? work one-on-one, we work in a workshop style as well, and then also with teams. And everything is customized because, as we all know, each leader is developed in different ways, and there's not one plan that fits everyone, even though the tools that we use, there's a variety of tools, right? But through this process, it's the awareness, and then also learning a lot about the body. And I would, just tapping into your body more. I know this is not a thing that a lot of people talk about, especially in corporate and business world, but really in your body, like, how does it feel in my body? Does it feel safe? Is it alignment? And if you don't know what alignment is, like, Google it, learn how to be in alignment. There's a lot I can talk about there, but I want to stay on track with the decision making as leaders. So staying in your body and just asking, like, does my body open or close? And really have the awareness, like the decision, literally your decision, what you're making to eat for lunch today, or what are you going to do like this weekend? How did you make those decisions? Is that a decision that you wanted to make or somebody made for you? That will tell you a lot about yourself. And it's just like doing it from a space of curiosity, doing it from a space of non-judgmental, but from a space of, like, I'm just curious on how I make my decisions, and then looking at it. And I would suggest writing it down, just some observations that you see. That way you know and understand, not to judge it, not to shame it, because we don't need to do that to us. Like, that's not cool. We don't need to do that. But that way you understand your process and your patterns, because every single one of us are going to have different processes and different patterns. And they're all going to stem back from, different life experiences and all those things. But writing it down so you're aware of it. And then as your awareness increases, if you're like, I really don't want to operate in this way and I want to shift and change it, that's where the choice comes into change. I talked about this a lot in my book, From Choice to Change. It's in those moments where we have the awareness that we need to make a change, that we make the choice that we're going to make the change right then and there. And sometimes we have those tools, sometimes we don't. And sometimes we're like, we want the change, but we have no idea how to get there. We see that a lot in the clients that we do work with. And I would just say, from that space, once you have the awareness, write them down, see your patterns, start shifting them, start shifting and working through your patterns, asking, like, where did this come from? Like, how did I pick up? And you'll be shocked that a lot of the ways that you make decisions can be picked up, usually from our parents, our jobs, our business, who's influenced us the most in our life, and the way we've been conditioned from society of, like, what is wrong, what is not, what is wrong, what is right, and we always want to make the right decision. But in all reality, they're all good decisions, because you either make a great decision or you get to learn a lesson, and they have the same value. It's not one or the other. So just looking at my notes to make sure that I covered all the topics. And just to recap, really starts with awareness and looking at your current process. And then if your current process is not serving you, start changing it and start listening to your body. Start really listening to your intuition and building that safety within yourself. And I would also say building safety and intuition can be challenging, but one of the things it's practice. It's a daily practice. And start with small things. Start with, like, what you're going to eat. Start with going to the grocery store. Start with going to, do I want A or B? Like, use your intuition and and trust that and keep doing that, because it will be supportive. And then the neutral space, not making a decision from a high or low vibrational space, but from a neutral, calm space. And a lot of times we will tell our clients to get there. It's really dropping back into your body. And that's usually like just taking like literally 3 deep breaths into your stomach, like deep breath in, deep breath out, and 3 different times. You'll be in a neutral space. You'll be in your body. You'll be able to shut your mind off to be into your body so you can be in a neutral space. The other tool I will say that I have used a lot has been human design. So I'm a manifestor with a 4-6 profile, and I also make my decisions. I'm an emotional decision maker. And what that means is I make decisions based off of how I feel. So that's how I know that I need 24 to 48 hours to make a big decision, because I want to feel into it to see how it really feels. Even though I have the data and I have everything else, I really want to make sure the decisions are aligned. So if you have not checked out Human Design, please do so. You can get your free Human Design reading on the internet. If you need resources around that, send me a message. I'm happy to have that conversation too. Human Design has helped me a lot on my journey of just really becoming a better leader and a better human in general. So I hope this live was helpful. I would love to know in the comments what you guys got out of it. If there's other topics that you want me to cover, my goal is to be going live on a weekly basis. So stay tuned for my next live next week. And if you have any questions, my inbox is always open. Send me an email. You can also visit our website at transformativeleadershipllc.com. Feel free to send us, if you have any questions or need any resources. Until next time, I hope you all make some great decisions and learn to listen to your body.